Howdy folks. Hey guys, I just wanted to talk to you guys about something that's been on my mind that just recently just popped up on me. And this is really, really important. And I want you guys to, the first picture that you're looking at is a roller coaster that's at Silver Dollar City, and it's called Time Traveler. And this is the point that I'm going to be talking about. Is for me, I have had this fight. If you have a kingdom union, if it's a promise that God's given you, okay, and this is what I'm going to address here, okay, you don't know how God's going to do it. You don't know how and when He's going to do this. You're not going to see this coming. And this is why I just thought, you know what, I'm going to throw this screenshot in here, and you're going to hear the bells when Time Traveler leaves the station, because I want you guys to understand that even though there is a similarity here for a lot of you guys, you need to understand that when God chooses to do it His way, He's not just, number one, He's going to hide it from the enemy. And if you're somebody like me who's gullible, you're going to go tell the whole world, and you're going to blot out every little detail, and God's going to say, nope, I can't do it that way. And I can't release your spouse that way, or whatever. You might realize you're a prodigal, and you're running back home, and you realize, oh my God, I'm supposed to be with this person. And, you know, and for me, I'm on the other side of the fence. I'm the standard, you know. I'm the one that's gutsy in trying to figure it out. You know, how are you going to do this, God? What's the game plan? What are you going to do? How are you going to make this work in my favor, you know? And the one thing that, you know, and it's truly sad because they'd say the prophet is not known in his hometown. He's known in a foreign land, okay? And so this first screenshot of Time Traveler, folks, I want you to understand these cars actually are going to spin, okay? And you don't know which direction you're going to spin. You might spin to your left, you might spin to your right. Whatever direction it's going to throw you, you're going to be spun around. You're going to be going upside down. You're going to be spun around, upside down, around and around, in and out. But at least for the ride, you're going to at least have an idea, if you're facing forward, where the track's going to be at. Okay? In a union, in a kingdom union that God has assigned for you, you are not going to see the tracks in front of you. You're not going to even know that they're there. And this is what I want you to understand, is that God has, I've waited the longest. I've waited 13 years for somebody that I really, really, truly love. And I want to make this very clear. I ain't about to back down, okay? I got on the ride. I'm staying on the ride. I don't care how many times I go around, whether it spins me around, whatever, and my neck hurts after it, you know, I'm not going to give up. Because the one thing is that the Lord gave you a marriage promise, He's going to fulfill it. Okay? There's a bigger side to the picture here. So I want you guys to understand something. Okay? And we're going to be talking about something here that I want you guys to understand, that God is still in control. Maybe you're a man out there, maybe you're a woman out there, and God gave you a promise about a spouse. Maybe He spoke it and you've heard it over and over. He's confirmed it multiple times. Okay? If He can confirm it at least twice or 3 times, one more time. And so I want to make this reference here. Okay? If God makes you a promise, it is. Okay? And no matter the circumstance, no matter what it looks like, no matter whether it looks small on the inside and is bigger on the outside, or it's smaller on the outside and is bigger on the inside. I like the reference of Doctor Who, just because if you guys can imagine stepping into the TARDIS and everything happens to be bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. So a lot of times our perceptions of how God's going to do something is like that. We're like, well, God, how can you do this? How, when it looks so dead, you know? How are you able to fit, you know, just imagine Doctor Who bringing out a kayak out of the TARDIS, and you looking at that going, and you're on the outside, and your perception is thinking, that doesn't fit in there. How's he bringing that out? So I want you guys to understand. Here's what I need you to understand here, is that when God decides to do something, he doesn't need your help to do it. He's going to do it, and I'll tell you right now, he will put pressure on your spouse. Your spouse is going to know, hey, I have to come home or else. Like, I felt sad, okay? I'm the kind of person that I go up to Silver Dollar City. I love to ride around on rides with people. I love to have people to spend time with, and I didn't necessarily feel like I was going to have much of that effort. I didn't get to feel like I was going to have anybody next to me. And it was sad. Because I wish that she was there, I wish I finally get to spend time with her, but my frustrations were like, it's not here yet. And I have to keep trusting the Father, and it made me break down and cry. And I found a place somewhere in the back of the park where I'm thinking I'm alone. And then some strange woman walks up to me and sees me crying and wants to know why I'm crying. She's obviously not the one I love, but she just sort of walks up and asks me if I'm okay. Well, she just happened to work there at the park, and I think her name was Ethel or whatever, but, dressed in 1880s clothes. And so I want you guys to understand that this is a journey. This is a season. This is something that you have to go through. You got to continue to stand for your spouse. You can't back down from a fight. One of the things that, it gets in my nerves is sometimes it's like, as children of God that we've been given a promise, are we going to continue to stand on that promise? Because the thing is that you're not just standing on the promise, you're standing for your spouse. You're standing for them, okay? You're standing for them to become stable enough to understand that you are their spouse, that they can't keep running away. And I had this sense in my mind where I was walking and I felt her on my side. Like I felt my spouse in the spirit realm. Relationships are purely spiritual. They're going to start in the supernatural. And then they're going to move to the physical. Eventually God will bring it together. Okay? But you can't try to figure it out. If you think that God's going to do it one way, don't even open your mouth. Just keep your mouth shut. Because 3 things I'm going to teach you. Don't give dates. Don't tell God how it's going to happen, and don't give him a final result to how you want it to be completed, because then he can't do that, and then he's going to have to completely 180 degrees start completely over, and guess what? You're going to be throwing a fit just like I am and going, you know what? I wish she was here. Okay? So, and I want you to understand that what I'm about to share with you is that even though she wasn't there with me, I felt like saying, it will feel good someday when you're finally home. When you finally realize who you are, I will be around. That's what I wanted to say. I wanted to basically tell them, I know that you're my spouse. I know you're my beloved. But until then, I'm going to keep praying. I'm going to keep standing for you. Because I know the final result. I know what God has shown me. I know, even for me, I'm going to tell you guys, I've even seen my family, okay? I've seen twin girls, and I have a little boy, and I don't know if I have another boy. I've only seen one of them. I'm wondering if there is another one, maybe his name is David. I'm guessing that would be after my father. And so I want you guys to understand that, in this motion, okay, it's going to be chaotic. You're waiting on his promise. You don't know how it's going to happen. You don't know which direction it's going to happen. You don't know whether you are standing or if you are going backwards or going forwards. You don't know what direction. Because the Father is doing the whole thing for you. And the thing is, he's trying to get your spouse ready too. He's trying to get her or him to come to you. And the thing is, some of you may have been told by your spouse, don't contact me. You're completely in silence. You're completely in the dark, just like me. You don't know how he's going to do it. But then, boom, suddenly it hits you. And I'm going to tell you why he wants to do it this way. Okay? And this is why I'm really using Time Traveler, because I want you guys to understand that, like Back to the Future, in that split second, in that split moment, when he comes through, he's going to appear suddenly. Things are going to happen suddenly. Okay? You got the adversary that's trying to work against you. And I would suggest you go and listen to Stephanie, and you listen to her on how I need you. You have to stand for your spouse. You have to continue to stand for your spouse. You have to cover them. You have to break off every form of witchcraft, spoken words. I would, confuse, block, and scramble the enemy's pathways, etc. I will leave a description later. I'm still working with things here, so. But if you need a word from me, don't hesitate to ask me, okay? You can email me. I am 25 for a word. I am a chosen one. I can't work a 9-to-5 job, okay? So if there is a need, I don't care what the need is. If it's something specific, go ahead and tell me, and I will pray for you. I will come out with a word for you. I have other people that I will prophesy over first before I release a word over everybody else, because I want to at least know that the word that I'm giving you is accurate. So, but this is where I'm talking here on this level, is that I want you guys to understand that God is still in control. And you can't go and open your mouth and telling the Father how you think it's going to be done, because when the Father decides to do it, He's going to do it without you even flinching, without you even knowing when it's going to happen. He might put your spouse up to a task of wanting to surprise you because they really want to come home and they haven't seen you in forever. And it's just because something that it's like, you know what, I got to do this. I can't keep delaying. I got to go home. And maybe they don't know that they're hearing you. Maybe some of you have a gift like God's given me. I know that with my spouse, God has given me the ability to tap into them and for them to hear me when I sing. I'm wanting to write music, and I'm hoping someday to perform at Echo Hall Theater or Red Rock Amphitheater. I want to do praise and worship music. That's what's in my heart. My heart is for the lost. I want to win people to the Lord. But my biggest frustration is like, God, I can't do it without her. And so I've changed my tactic of saying, I don't want to be selfish here, God, but I love her enough that I need her to come back. That I need her because of where it applies to ministry. Because I've told the Father I can't function without her. And I know a lot of you are the same way. You might be a female, listen to this, and maybe God's given you a promise about a husband, and his prodigal husband's ran off and he doesn't want anything to do with you. He won't answer your calls. He just rejects you. He deletes your emails and everything else like that. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you got a counterfeit hanging around or anything like that, or even just think that you can let them just hang off to the wayside, no, you got to kick them out. You got to lock the door. You got to slam the door shut, because God's not going to, he's not going to bring back your kingdom spouse with his counterfeit hanging around. Because I'm telling you, they're going to try to come in and they're going to try to attack your union. And so I'm going to make this plain here. Let's just say he's going to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to let you have your kingdom spouse, but you got that counterfeit hanging around. Well, guess what? That counterfeit's going to destroy your relationship, and then you're going to be back at square one again. So what I need you to understand from me here is that you have to let the Father bring your spouse the way he wants to. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. When the Father gets ready to send your spouse home, they will travel to you. They will run to you. You will not see this coming. You might be in your office. You might be working. You might be at school, whatever it might be. And you might get either a phone call or a surprise visitor. You might get I'm seeing a picture. I don't know who this is for. I really don't. Um, I sense a picture for somebody is I feel like they work in the school district. I feel like it's a female that I'm describing. There's somebody, you work in this school, and you're waiting on your kingdom spouse, and your kingdom spouse shows up at the school and has to sign in at the principal's office and has to sit and wait on you. So I don't know who this is. I don't exactly know who this person is. But what I'm describing here is how God's going to do it. Because he might put them up to that task. He might send them in such a fashion like that. Like he might suddenly just send them, hey, like, I'm going to go up and I'm going to take the task to just go surprise this person. God knows what's best to, and this is what we got to understand. The Lord knows what's best for you. And sometimes you just got to let that happen. And I'm going to say, just like one of my friends, I've heard Tucker got said this all before, he says, let's send it. So I'm going to take his words, I'm going to snatch them. And I'm going to say, if you know that God gave you a promise, then let's send it. Let's take that promise, let's take it seriously. If you need to keep continuing to make your house look better and presentable for your kingdom spouse, maybe you need to have a guest room set aside. Maybe you need to make sure that you have everything that you think that your kingdom spouse... Because here's the thing. I'm going to tell you, God created a kingdom spouse for you who's identical to you. If you get afraid when you're trying to go to sleep, or you're scared to go to sleep, or you get frustrated, you're not going to sleep. I'm telling you right now, you will not sleep. So I'm telling you, your spouse and you, God has perfectly picked you. And this is why people don't understand these unions, is because God picked them. They're supposed to be completely perfect. They're supposed to be completely identical. You're supposed to match each other in the mirror. You're supposed to look so identical, so much. And here's the other thing too. You two might be really, truly in love with each other before you even come in contact. And this is why I believe that what Stephanie said, what Stephanie P. Smith said on YouTube, is that God does this. He wants you and your kingdom spouse to be so in love with each other, so when you finally come crashing together, that as your spouse is trying to come to you, and they're on their way, they're en route to you, and the enemy's trying to cast all kinds of witchcraft at you, guess what? It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work, because guess what? Witchcraft isn't going to work against true love. It's always going to break the spell. The spell's going to be broken. But you guys have to be listening to your right ear or your left ear. And you need to ask the Father to open up your ears to be able to know if somebody's doing witchcraft against my union, okay? And asking the Father, either it's a signal, maybe it's a buzzing noise or a whistling noise or whatever, but something that you will hear, you will wake up, and for you to rebuke, block, cancel, denounce. And so what I do, as I tell the Father, I rebuke, block, and cancel every diabolical assignment. I cancel every separation spell, love spell coming against this union. And then the thing is, angels don't know time. So I say, I decree and declare in the name of Jesus, angelic hosts of heaven do not know time. So I call down fire on every demonic altar. I cancel every spell attempt coming against this union. Return to sender. I call down fire on every demonic altar, every plot and plan assignment from the enemy. And then I return back to sender all the witchcraft that these people think that they're going to do against your union. And then as you're doing that, you're covering your spouse. So Father, I decree and declare, Father, I cover my spouse. Father, I ask you, Daddy God, that you would hide my spouse from the enemy's radar, that you would confuse, walk, and scramble the enemy's pathways to her or to him, whoever. So, if it's a female, you're going to cover your spouse and, you're going to cover them. And I tell the Father, take them under the ocean. And the thing is, God understands what you're telling him, okay? You may not think that he understands, but he does understand. He's the one that created you. He's going to understand you. So, you might be the kind of person that likes to get on roller coasters, and you like to be the person that's in the back of the line. Or maybe you're that spouse that, I just don't like roller coasters, but your spouse does. So you're going to be watching him, and you're going to be taking the photos. So I'm telling you, take the time to trust the Father that He has given you a promise. He's going to do what He said He's going to do. Don't worry about the time frame. Don't worry about how He's going to do it. Some of you are going to get woke up in the middle of the night by your kingdom spouse coming home. I'm telling you, some of you are going to get woke up because your spouse isn't going to be able to sleep without you. They're not going to be able to live without you. They're going to have to come home to you because they need you in their life. They can't live without you. And a lot of you out there, I know how wretched it is. I know how heart-wrenching this is. Okay? And try to humor me. But I want you to understand that even in this situation, when I got on Time Traveler, I could not see the track because I was going backwards for a good majority of the time. And I'm sorry, I just you know what? I tried to figure out how am I going to stop from going backwards because I just don't want to go backwards. And it didn't matter. Sometimes I went backwards, sometimes I went sideways. I went yon ways, whatever. So here's what I'm going to tell you guys. God knows, He knows your spouse. He knows your heart. So I'm going to ask you guys to calm down. I want you to trust that God has a plan for you. And He's going to fulfill every desire, everything that you need. And I'm going to I'm going to say this. A lot of you have been set apart for specific gifts. Don't let the enemy steal from you even in this time frame. Just because your spouse hasn't come back doesn't mean you can't be writing a new song or writing that book. You know, maybe you need to get that book to a publishing company so that maybe you can actually have a way to support your spouse if that's how God's going to have you do it. Because some of your spouses are walking the prophetic and they can't handle a 9-to-5 job. God's going to be sending them into other regions. And so I want you to understand that God isn't going to just let you suffer, okay? He's not going to let you suffer forever. He already has a plan. If He's already given you, and this is what you need to understand, if He's already given you a marriage promise, He's already seen the whole picture. You just have to wait. You just got to trust Him. You got to go through the motions. You got to let the Father deliver on time. And hold your head upright. Don't be crying in front of public. People aren't going to understand what you're holding. And especially if it's someone out there who wants to steal your union and try to stop it. Don't be opening your mouth to someone you don't know. You keep your mouth shut. You don't be going and telling just about every Joe and on the planet. Don't be going and telling Alfie and Ralphie and Alfie that every time they try to come rob the train, don't be going telling them. I'm telling you, some of you guys got to keep your mouth shut. Their robbers are going to come out and they're going to try to steal from you. So I'm going to tell you right now, keep your mouth shut. If the Lord has given you a promise, if He's shown you something, then you let the Father reveal that and you keep that inside your heart. If you have to write it down in a notebook and lock that notebook up so that you at least know that you wrote it down, so that when the time comes that later on you'll know to release it, then do that. But I'm going to tell you, unless it's someone that that understands the prophetic and walks in the gift, I'm not going to tell you. I mean, you can send me your testimony. That's fine. I'm not going to go blurting it out to somebody. Okay. I suggest you listen to Heart of Ruth. You listen to Stephanie and Taya Grace. I want you guys to listen to those three people. And will tell you right now that I love these people. And there's one other person on here, but he's not really on YouTube. But if you really, 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 really need an in-depth word, I would suggest you go to Jeremy Lopez. But that's only if I tell you that you need to go speak to Jeremy Lopez. So if you're really in need of a word, a prophetic word from me, I will release a word for you. I will send it to you. My email address is going to be in file. And I will also do coaching calls with you guys, but I still haven't figured out how I'm going to do that. And I think that my coaching calls are going to be for an hour and a half for $50. That's how I think I'm going to do it, because I really feel like my coaching calls are more meant to be prophetic counseling. I think that's what God wants me to do. I think that what the Lord wants me dealing with in this hour is that $25 for a prophetic word release. But if it's more of a challenging situation and you really need to spend time with me, then I will spend that hour and a half with you in a coaching call. I will be longer than most people will do for that amount of money. So I just felt like God has been trying to set me apart, because I want you guys to have a way to understand how God's going to do things here. And you have to trust Him, because it's going to feel like suddenly things are moving in your favor and you feel like nothing's been moving, and then suddenly things start to move. You better hang on, you better hold on, but don't be opening your mouth to everybody that just, that walks around the scenes on you. So I want to call it those two guys from Home Alone, but I don't even know their Marv, I guess. So I want you guys to just trust the Father has a plan for your life, and don't worry about tomorrow, okay? You're not promised tomorrow, and neither is your spouse. But if God made you a marriage promise, believe me, He's not just giving you a marriage promise. Some of you have already seen your children, have already seen your family, okay? God's not going to show you something like that and then not fulfill it. Like, if you were to get hired by a job, they're not just going to hire you and then not start you. That wouldn't be fair. And so when we think about the Father, that He has seen ahead of us, He's seen the end from our beginning. So He knows what every person needs on this earth. Like for me, there was one person that, she just wasn't a good friend. She didn't understand who I was, but when God chooses a mate, He chooses somebody who is going to be there for you for the rest of your life, who's not going to get nitpicky and, I'm threatening for divorce or whatever, all this. He picks the best of the best and the cream of the crop, because He knows that you need someone who's perfect to get along with you, and so He searches for that person, and you guys get paired way before you ever run into each other. I made the goof when I was younger. I kept wanting to know who my spouse was. And the very first day, God said, that's your wife, that's your spouse. And I stuck my nose up at her. Twice, I stuck my nose up at her. Because I didn't think that, wait, this is who you've given me? And it's just kind of, you kind of have to look at it and go, okay, today now it makes sense. I'm totally in love with the person. I can't love another person. I don't know how. I don't know how to let, even if He said, I'm going to have to give you somebody else. There's only one other person on this earth that I would accept. But I wouldn't know how to do that, because the person that I love is so important to me that I'm willing to continue waiting on them. And my prayer has been that God is going to open up her eyes to know that I truly love her the way that I do. Because, and this is something I want you guys to understand here, and I'm going to make this plain. This is a prayer that I think that a lot of you need to pray out there. Is that you need to pray and ask the Father to open up your spouse's eyes, for them to realize how much you love them. Because if they could see your heart, they'd be at your feet. They wouldn't be away from you. They wouldn't be 2 states away from you. If they could understand your heart, if they could understand who you are, then they would know that you truly do love them and that you're the best for them. Because you wouldn't continue to hold on to them, continue to believe in them and love them from a distance like that, and just, crossing your fingers that they're going to come back home. I mean, that's a gutsy move. I mean, that's... that's... There's no way to describe this. True love is true love. But this is where I'm going to talk about next time. But, I just want you guys to understand that kingdom unions aren't going to be normal, okay? When they face the music, when you two come together, it's going to happen so fast. that you won't know what hit you. Some of you are going to have to marry your wife, your spouse, quicker than you expect. Some of you are going to go to the justice of the peace and get it done the same day. Some of you probably have been told by the Father to marry your spouse pretty quick, okay? Because the Father, from what I understand, the enemy does not want your union to be working together. He does not want your union to function, okay? And the Father does not want to give the enemy any chance to stop this, because there are souls attached to these unions. There are ministries attached to them. There are people that are going to get born again and get saved that normally would not get born again and get saved. And so this is where I feel I'm going to lead off here. But what I want you want you guys to understand is that you're not going to see it coming. I do believe that God will give you a slight clue. I believe that He will give you an understanding of how it might happen. Like for me, I know that mine's going to come to me. And I know that she's going to come home. Like something's going to drive her to come home. Like, you know, I need to come home. I need to see him. Like, I can't stay where I'm at anymore. Like, you know, almost like I need to come back. You know, I've done him wrong. And, you know, and just like a mother lost her child and she's frantically looking for her child in a strange theme park, you know, or a missing animal with sign on the door, and, you know, missing dog, missing cat, reward out for $500. But they're not going to just be posting that sign out there. They're going to be looking for you. And I believe that some of your spouses are going to do this. They're going to travel halfway across the states, getting on airplanes, renting cars, looking you up, searching for you, searching for your whereabouts, just to come back to you. And some of them, I'm going to tell you, some of you might just have to catch your spouse, because they may just collapse into your arms. They may just not be able to. They may have just enough energy to get to you, but then they're going to collapse right into your arms. So make sure that you're able to handle their weight, and, you know, make yourself look good. You know, make yourself, if you're a woman, make yourself look pretty. Get your hair done, get it braided. You know, if you're a man, get your hair cut. Get yourself a new suit if you can afford it. You know, get yourself to look good, okay? We're not talking about great, but do what God tells you to do. If He's told you prepare your house, prepare your house. Okay? If He tells you to do a prophetic act, if He tells you to fast, then do a fast. So you need to do what He tells you to do and stop fighting Him. You know, I get this sometimes. You know, I swear I can talk to my spouse in the supernatural. Maybe you guys can too. And I told her, I said, stop running. Just stop running. Just stop running away. Just turn around. You don't have to keep running away. I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm right where you left me, you know, and I had this moment where I'm like, you know who I am now. You have the revelation. And I think what it is for a lot of you guys out there is that your kingdom spouses, just like me, they miss you so much. But I think what it's going to be is, I think that God is going to do something, and I'll have a picture that's going to have the words launch. I think what's going to happen is that God is going to push them. They are not going to be able to know what to do. They're just going to know that they have to go, and they're going to have to go quickly, because they're not going to have much time. And they're going to feel thrusted too. They're going to feel like they've had an LSM launch coaster pushing them to the next level. So I'm telling you, some of you just need to stand firm, continue to trust the Father, and don't give in to fear. I know some of you want to cry. I know that even for me, I want to cry, okay? I love to sing. I write down my thoughts. I write down songs, and I try to tell her that, hey, these people are going to be singing the songs that I wrote about you. And I mean it. You know, Lainey Wilson has a song about, you know, hang tight honey, or hang tight baby. And, I try to continue to live and stand on the promise that God has given me. And I want you guys to do that as well. If he's given you a promise, don't back down. You continue to stand. And you be stubborn with that promise and don't let the devil take it from you. Because I'm telling you, you got to cover and protect your spouse. The moment that your spouse is getting ready to come to you, I'm going to tell you right now, the warfare is going to intensify. The attacks are going to intensify. You're going to feel like a pregnant woman. And you might be a woman on here who's already had children. So I'm telling you right now, you've already given birth. You know what it feels like to give birth to a child. You're getting into those labor pains. You know what it's about to feel like. The warfare is going to hit you. You're going to get attacked at night, just like I get attacked. I can't stand it. I stand up. I say, you get out of here in the name of Jesus. So stand and fight. Don't let the enemy deceive you. You take the time to trust the Father. You take the fight back to the enemy. You be bold and you be courageous. You stand up for what God already promised you. Because he is going to do what he said he's going to do. He's not a man that's going to lie. But a lot of you sometimes don't understand why he chose your spouse for you the way that he chose them. In the very beginning, I stuck my nose up at her. I said, I don't want that. I really didn't. You guys have to understand. For me, and here's the thing. A lot of you guys don't understand this. And I wanted to share this with you because I was about to drop out of here. But I want you to understand something. There's a scene in Now You See Me. The beginning of Now You See Me. Okay? They're palming the balls. Okay? They want to make them think that they chose the seat. When in reality, the seat was already chosen for them. God has already done this with your spouse and you. He's already picked out your spouse. He already knows what's best for you. It was just a matter of time for the two of you to actually come into finding each other. Okay? And this is what I want you to understand. You didn't choose your spouse. You thought you did. You didn't. Quite frankly, you never chose them to begin with. God already chose you. I'm sorry. She always has to, today I always hear this in my head and I'm like, okay, I'm the person that understands how to do this. I've done prophetic acts to fix her heart, to do things that God's called me to do, okay? And the Lord showed me things about her. And I'm not going to get into too much detail, but he showed me a chart in heaven. You are not a mistake. Your mother and father are not a mistake. You coming into this world, God already handpicked your spouse and you, and he already set you up. He set up your mom and dad. He knew your mom and dad. He knew your grandparents. He knew your great-grandparents. He already handpicked each one of them. And this is what he showed me, is that he says, it's not a mistake to me. I already knew about it. To you, you didn't think that this is how it was going to happen. You just thought, okay, I'm just going to run into whoever, and I'm going to fall in love with whoever, and I'm going to marry whoever. No, it doesn't work like that. You don't, that's not how, if you really want to understand things, you got to understand that God has a certain way of how he does things. And right now, we are in a season where we are entering into the final harvest. Now, God has a way of how he's going to do this. Kingdom unions are part of the final harvest. And that's what he showed me. Everybody else out there, they can do whatever and pick whoever. Okay, he doesn't have to deal with that. But other unions are hand-picked. They're grapes picked off a tree, and they match perfectly. So, and that's what he wanted me to understand, is that this is exactly what he's been doing all along. These unions have been set up specifically, and Stephanie has said it, even Heart of Ruth has talked about the bloodlines, okay? About how certain unions have to come together for specific things to take place. Like for me, I I've already seen my twin girls, my son, and I'm still a little worried whether or not my daughter Darcy has autism or not. But the Lord showed me my children. He's already showed them to me, and He showed me Samuel. But He showed me the gifts that they already have. He showed me the prophetic abilities that they have. He showed me the talents. He showed me how they're spitfires. He's already taken me into the future. I met them already. You know, I could hear them in the supernatural. And a lot of times when God shows you something like that, it's very sacred. It's like, wait, you showed me all of this. And it's because, as Heart of Ruth says, some unions, you know, there's only certain bloodlines that come from certain unions. Like there's certain children that God wants to bring into existence, and they can only come a certain way. And so the enemy tries to stop that union. He tries to stop this. He tries to stop God's plans. And I want you guys to understand, even Kim Clement is one of those people. And sadly, that, you know, he had passed away in 2016, but God handpicked him. He handpicked his parents for him to come into the realm. Even his daughter, Donna Clement Petrushka, who actually took over for Kim when he passed away. So a lot of you are going to either inherit a ministry, inherit a church. God's calling you for greater things. So I don't want you worrying about how God's going to bring your spouse back. I know it's a heartache. But what I want you to do is I want you to understand in your mind is look at the ways that you could give it away to the enemy and then I'm delaying it. So I'm going to tell you right now, don't be trying to ask God how He's going to do it, and just trust the Father that if He's not telling you how He's going to do it, then you just get on the ride and you let the Father bring your spouse to you the way He wants to. Because when He does it His way, the enemy's going to be blindsided. Every witch, every warlock, every person out there that has tried to stand against your union, they're going to have a front row seat. God's going to present the presence of your enemy. He's going to set a table in the presence of your enemy, okay? And then if the enemy tries to come in like a flood, He's going to raise a standard up against him. So I want you to trust that God has a plan for your life, and He's going to fulfill things, but you have to continue to stand and trust Him. So if there's anyone that needs a word from me, my email will be in the description, so you can go ahead and send that out, and I will respond accordingly. I am $25 for a word, and I'm for an hour and a half. I'm $50 for prophetic counseling, which I will do for you. I still haven't figured out how I'm going to do it. I think that I will eventually set up a number that people can call, but right now the prophetic counseling is not going to be on yet. I will mention it later, so I just wanted to mention that, but later on we'll figure things out. So, but I'm going to bless you guys in the name of the Lord, and I'm going to remind all of you standers out there, if you're standing for your union, just keep trusting the Lord. Don't give up. Don't give in. And I will suggest that you guys sign up for eaglehub.com.au. And there's lots of, from my friend Adele, you can sign up for Eagle Hub. And you can learn even things, there's other people that you can request words for, or you can ask them to pray for them as well. Adele has some teachings in there. I would highly suggest that you go in and you listen to her, especially in warfare and dream interpretation and all this other stuff. So I would suggest some of you guys sign up for Eagle Hub as well. But God bless you guys as well, and that will be in the description as well.